Rain lashes the narrow alley behind Graybridge Diner. Neon signs flicker through the downpour, their reflections bleeding into puddles that ripple under Samantha Luna's steps. She's late again, uniform damp, hands buried in her coat pockets. It's nearly midnight, and the town sleeps behind shuttered windows. She loves this silence, the kind that feels like escape. But tonight it feels wrong. Something metallic glints near the dumpster. At first, she thinks it's trash. Then she sees the gun. And beside it, a man. He's slumped against the brick wall, expensive suit torn, blood pooling under him, mixing with rainwater that runs like veins down the street. His eyes are open but glassy, trying to focus. Sam freezes. Her breath fogs in the cold. "Hey," she calls, taking a cautious step closer. The man stirs, barely. A rough whisper slips through his lips. "Don't call the cops." Sam's heart hammers. She should run. Every instinct screams get out. A single mother. Alone. No backup. But the sound of his voice, hoarse, fading, hit something deep inside her. She's heard it before in trauma wards. Soldiers clutching at life. She drops to her knees beside him, rain soaking through her jeans. "You're bleeding out." "Leave me," he gasps. "Not happening." Her fingers move before her mind can catch up. She rips open her tote bag, pulling out the small first aid kit she carries everywhere. Gauze, tape, scissors. Her trembling hands press hard against the wound just below his ribs. "Stay with me," she says firmly. "You're not dying in my alley tonight." He groans, gripping her wrist weakly. The gun lies forgotten in the puddle beside him. Thunder rolls overhead as she tears a strip from her scarf, tightening it to slow the bleeding. The alley smells of iron and rain. When she tries her phone, there's no signal. Just static and the hollow thump of her own heartbeat. He's fading fast. She looks around, empty street, no one coming. She has two choices. Leave him and pretend she never saw this. Or drag a stranger home and pray she's not about to destroy her life. "Damn it," she mutters. "Fine. You live, but you're buying new floors." It takes every ounce of strength to pull him upright. He's heavier than he looks. Dead weight now. She hauls him through the back entrance of the diner, up the creaking stairs to her small apartment. By the time she lays him on the couch, her arms are shaking, lungs burning. Under the yellow kitchen light, his face looks carved from exhaustion. Strong jawline streaked with blood and rain. She sees an old scar across his shoulder, a tattoo half hidden beneath torn fabric. Her medical instincts take over. She cuts open his shirt, cleans the wound, works fast. The bullet didn't exit. It's deep, but she's done worse. Her hands steady as she stitches under the dim lamp, thunder rumbling like artillery outside. When he stirs, his voice cracks. Why help me?" "Because I can," she answers. "Now shut up and breathe." He tries to laugh, winces instead. His eyes close. Hours crawl by. The storm softens. By dawn, the man sleeps, bandaged, pale but alive. Sam sits slumped beside him, head against the wall, exhaustion pulling her down. A buzzing phone drags her back. She blinks at the screen. News alert. Chicago crime lord Steve O'Connell presumed dead after gang ambush. Her stomach drops. She looks at the stranger on her couch, at the jagged scar, the tailored suit, the bullet wound she just closed. She whispers, "Oh my God." Down the hall, her 10-year-old son Eli stirs in his room, unaware that the man sleeping 10 feet away once ruled a city's underworld. Sam presses her palms over her face. She thought she left this kind of danger behind when she left Chicago. But last night she didn't just save a life. She might have invited the devil into her home. Outside, the rain finally stops. A car idles across the street, lights off. Someone's watching. And in the quiet between thunder and sunrise, Sam Luna's ordinary life ends for good. Subscribe if you believe courage sometimes looks like compassion. Morning light creeps through the blinds, slicing across the small apartment like thin blades of gold. The rain has stopped, but the air still smells of damp concrete and antiseptic. Sam sits at her kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee gone cold, staring at the man on her couch. Steve O'Connell is still breathing. Barely. She's replayed the night in her head a dozen times. The blood, the weight of his body, his whisper not to call the cops. Every time she tells herself she should have left him there. Every time her hands remember the feel of a pulse slipping away. He groans. The sound makes her flinch. His eyes flicker open, sharp and assessing, scanning the ceiling, the room, then her. Where the hell am I? His voice is rough, but steadier than it should be. Sam doesn't answer right away. She crosses to the sink, rinses her hands, buying herself a few seconds to think. "You're in my apartment," she finally says. Above the diner. He pushes himself upright, grimacing as pain tightens his face. His shirt is gone, replaced by fresh gauze and tape, the wound clean and neatly stitched. He looks down at it, then back at her. "You did this. I wasn't about to let you bleed out on my doorstep." "You're not a doctor." "No," she says, meeting his gaze. "But I've done this before." He studies her, eyes cold and calculating, the way men like him size up a threat. "You were in medicine." "Used to be." "Chicago." The word hits her like a slap. "You talk too much for someone who almost died," she says flatly, turning her back to him. He lets out a low chuckle that turns into a cough. "Guess I owe you thanks." "Don't bother. You were bleeding. That's all I needed to know. Most people would have called the cops." She dries her hands on a towel, still facing the window. "Most people haven't seen what I've seen." He tilts his head, intrigued. "And what have you seen?" Her silence is answer enough. From down the hall, Eli's door creaks open. Sam's voice softens immediately. "Go back to bed, sweetheart," she calls without turning around. It's still early. The door shuts again, quiet footsteps retreating. Steve's brow furrows. "You've got a kid here?" Sam's eyes flash. "You keep your voice down." "And yes. Which means you're leaving as soon as you can stand." "Relax," he mutters. "I'm not looking to cause trouble." "Then you picked the wrong life." For a moment, neither speaks. The clock ticks. The city hums outside. Sam finally sinks into a chair opposite him. Her eyes are tired, ringed with sleepless worry. He watches her hands. Steady, precise, the hands of someone used to emergencies. He says quietly, "Who are you?" She exhales slowly. "Someone who should have walked away." Her mind drifts back, unbidden. Chicago, 5 years ago. The smell of bleach and adrenaline in the ER. 12-hour shifts. Her husband Michael laughed when he picked her up after work. The day he didn't come home. A phone call. A collapsed construction site. No survivors. Then came the reports. Corner-cutting contractors. Fake safety inspections. Bribes. And behind the corruption, the name Vince Callan. She'd spoken up, filed reports, refused to stay quiet. 2 weeks later, she was let go for unprofessional conduct. She'd sold everything, taken Eli, and left the city for good. But no matter how far she ran, the city always found ways to follow. Steve's voice drags her back to the present. "You don't look like a woman afraid of much." She lets out a short, humorless laugh. "That's because fear stopped helping me a long time ago." He studies her face, the calm surface hiding exhaustion, grief, maybe something else. "You knew who I was," he says finally. "Didn't you? I figured it out this morning." "And you still didn't call anyone." She looks at him, her eyes like storm clouds that never clear. "I don't trust anyone enough to call." He leans back, testing the bandage, his jaw tightening against pain. "Then what now? You gonna hand me over? Trade me in for a reward?" Sam shakes her head. "I just want you gone. The second you can walk, you leave. That's the deal." "Deal," he says. "But I need a day. Maybe 2. You have 12 hours. He smirks faintly. "You drive a hard bargain, Nurse Luna." "Don't call me that." Something in her tone makes him stop. She walks to the window, parting the blinds just enough to look outside. A black sedan sits across the street, engine idling. 2 silhouettes inside. She closes the blinds quickly. They've already found you, she murmurs. Steve's expression sharpens. You're sure? I've lived in this town long enough to know when a car doesn't belong. He pushes to his feet, unsteady but determined. Then I need to go. Now. You'll bleed out. Better that than bringing trouble to your kid's doorstep. She moves closer, lowering her voice. Listen to me. You step out that door and whoever's watching will finish the job they started. You won't even make it to the corner. He looks at her, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. Why do you care? Because I don't need my son seeing another body on this street. For a heartbeat, they just stand there. The ex-nurse and the wounded mobster, both caught in a life neither wanted. Finally, Steve sinks back onto the couch. All right, Sam Luna. 12 hours. She exhales. I'll get more supplies. Stay quiet, stay still. He nods, watching her move through the small space, checking the windows, tucking away her medical kit, pouring out her cold coffee. She doesn't notice him memorizing every motion, every glance. When she disappears into the bedroom, Steve stares at the ceiling, jaw clenched. He's been patched up by professionals, criminals, even battlefield medics, but never by someone who looked at him like a man instead of a monster. He doesn't know if he owes her gratitude or guilt. Through the half-open window, the soft hum of the sedan's engine carries across the damp street. Somewhere out there, Vince Callen's men are waiting for a sign he's still breathing. And inside this small apartment above a sleepy diner, the woman who saved him has no idea she's just stepped into their war. The storm had passed, but Graybridge hadn't exhaled yet. The air still felt thick, heavy with secrets no one wanted to speak aloud. Sam Luna stood behind the diner counter, drying a row of spotless mugs just to keep her hands busy. The neon sign outside flickered, casting red and blue light across the window, like police lights that never turned off. It had been 3 nights since the sheriff's visit. 3 nights of half-sleep, of glancing toward the diner's back door every time a car passed. 3 nights of pretending nothing had changed. But everything had. Down in the storage room beneath the diner, Steve O'Connell, the man the world believed dead, was very much alive. She checked on him between shifts, careful to keep the hallway lights dim and her footsteps soft. He was recovering faster now, the color returning to his face, his voice no longer as ragged. Still, there was a quiet danger about him. The kind of stillness that came from years of leading men who killed without hesitation. He watched everything, listened to every sound. Coffee? She asked one morning, holding a steaming mug as she stepped into the storage room. Steve looked up from the crate he used as a chair, the shadows cutting sharp lines across his face. You serve the best in town. I'd be a fool to say no. Sam set the cup down, noticing the makeshift cot she'd assembled from old blankets. You need rest, not caffeine. He smirked. Sleep's for men who aren't hunted. Right, she muttered. And paranoia's for people who don't know when to shut up. Steve's chuckle was low, almost warm. You talk like someone who's been around danger before. I was an ER nurse in Chicago, she said, brushing stray hair from her face. You'd be surprised how many bad men I've seen on gurneys. Yeah, he asked. Do you like me? She didn't answer. Upstairs, the bell above the diner door jingled. She tensed. Stay here. Sam climbed the steps, forcing her expression into something casual. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air, but the man waiting at the counter didn't fit the morning crowd. Sheriff Tom Keller stood there again, his smile polite but cold. Morning, Sam, he said, tapping his fingers on the counter. Heard you've been keeping busy. Always, she replied. Dinner life. No breaks, no sleep. He tilted his head. Any unusual activity lately? The town's been uneasy. A couple of strangers spotted near the harbor last night. Black SUV, tinted windows. Sam kept her face neutral. Sounds like tourists who took a wrong turn. Maybe. His eyes wandered to the staircase leading up to her apartment, and indirectly the hidden room below it. Are you living alone these days? Her grip tightened on the counter. Just me and Eli. You know that. He nodded slowly, smile fading. Be careful who you let close, Sam. Trouble from Chicago has a habit of washing up here. Then it's already begun. The hum of the freezer filled the silence. Sam pressed a hand to her mouth, memories flashing. The sheriff's visits, the strange car idling outside, the when he left. She watched his patrol car idle at the curb longer than necessary before driving off. The bell above the door jingled again, mocking her with its normalcy. Downstairs, Steve was sitting where she'd left him, reading a faded newspaper from a box she'd stored years ago. He came back, didn't he? Sam nodded, closing the door behind her. He's fishing for something. He knows. Not yet, Steve said, calm as stone. But he will if you keep letting him in. Her jaw clenched. You think I don't know that? I'm trying to keep my son safe. Steve's expression softened. Then let me help. You've done enough. He leaned forward, his tone lowering. You don't get it. Vince Callan doesn't leave loose ends. If Keller's sniffing around, it's because Vince put him there. The name chilled her. Who's Vince Callan? My former right hand, Steve said quietly. The man who ordered my death. He picked up the mug, his reflection rippling in the black coffee. We built the O'Connell Syndicate together. Loyalty, rules, lines that weren't supposed to be crossed. But greed changes men. Vince wanted control. He brokered deals behind my back, started laundering money through a new operation. When I found out, he staged an ambush. Shot me himself. Sam folded her arms. And you think he's here? Steve gave a small nod. Vince isn't stupid. He's expanding, hiding behind charities and community projects. If your town's got new construction or donations pouring in, he's already there. She turned toward the corner where the diner's old invoices were stacked. She grabbed one at random and froze. The Callan Foundation. A smiling logo stamped across the top, a thank you note printed in neat type. We appreciate Luna's Diner for catering our charity banquet. Her pulse quickened. Oh God. Steve looked up. What is it? They're one of my clients. Vince Callan's foundation. They've been here for months. We've served them every week. His eyes darken unfamiliar orders placed late at night. It all fits too perfectly. Sam, Steve said softly. You need to stop working with them. She shook her head. It's not that simple. If I pull out suddenly, they'll notice. They'll ask questions. Then let me handle it. No, she snapped. This is my town. My diner. My son's life. For a long moment neither spoke. The tension hung like smoke. Then Steve asked, quieter this time. Why did you do it? That night in the alley. Why risk everything for a man like me? Her throat tightened. She could have lied. Could have said it was instinct. Or pity. Or obligation. But none of that was true. Instead, she said, because someone once watched my husband die when they could have helped. Steve's eyes lifted slowly to hers. She went on, voice trembling but steady. He was trapped in a construction collapse. I begged them to go in after him, but they said it wasn't safe. By the time rescue came, it was too late. I heard him screaming for help. The room felt smaller suddenly. The walls are closer. I swore if I ever had the chance to save someone again, I wouldn't hesitate. No matter who they were. Steve stared at her. Not with guilt, but something deeper. The kind of understanding that didn't need words. Finally, he said, You've got more courage than most people I've met. More than me. She turned away, blinking back the sting in her eyes. Don't mistake compassion for courage. They're not the same thing. Maybe not, he said. But they're both rare. Above them, footsteps echoed, the evening crew arriving early. Sam cursed under her breath. You can't make a sound, she whispered. Not even a cough. They think the noise is the freezer motor. He gave a small nod. I'll manage. She started up the stairs, pausing halfway. Steve. Yeah. Don't get any ideas about fixing this for me. You owe me your life, not control of mine. He smiled faintly, a shadow of something human. Understood, Nurse Luna. Back upstairs, the diner filled with chatter, frying oil, and the scent of normalcy. But Sam couldn't unhear what she now knew, that the man hidden beneath her feet wasn't just a ghost from another world. He was a warning. And Graybridge, her quiet refuge, was already haunted. Morning light crept through the blinds of the diner apartment, thin and pale, slicing across the hardwood floor. Sam had barely slept. Every sound outside, a passing engine, a door closing, footsteps on the street, made her heart jolt. Downstairs, the morning crew worked as if nothing in the world was wrong. Upstairs, in the storage room, a man everyone thought dead was quietly piecing himself back together. Eli's voice drifted from the kitchen. "Mom, you said you'd make pancakes today." Sam blinked, startled. Yeah, I'll be right there, honey." She took a breath, checked the small revolver she'd started keeping in the kitchen drawer, and stepped into the hallway. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. Everything looked ordinary. It wasn't. From below, a dull clank echoed, metal against metal. The sound froze her mid-step. Not again. She hurried down the back stairs, heart pounding, only to hear another voice, Eli's. "Whoa," he said, in awe of his tone. Sam's stomach dropped. "Eli." In the dim light of the storage room, her son stood face to face with Steve O'Connell. Steve was crouched near the broken freezer, a screwdriver in his hand, wires exposed. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, revealing bandaged ribs and the faint traces of tattoos on his forearms. He looked up, calm but cautious. Eli's eyes were wide but unafraid. "Mom, who is this guy?" "He said he's fixing the freezer." Sam's voice came out sharp. "Eli, go upstairs." Steve raised a hand gently. "It's okay. The kid just came down to see what the noise was." But Eli didn't move. "You don't look like a repairman," he said, curious. "Are you a soldier?" Steve's expression softened for the first time in days. "Something like that." Sam stepped between them. "Eli now." Her son frowned but obeyed, his footsteps fading back toward the stairs. When the door shut, she spun on Steve. "You can't let him see you. What if he says something at school?" Steve leaned back against the wall, wincing slightly. "He's a smart kid. He won't." "You don't know that." "I know the look in his eyes," Steve said quietly. "That's curiosity, not fear. He's got your courage." She glared at him but didn't argue. Instead, she looked at the freezer he'd been working on. The hum had stopped days ago. It had been on her list to call a repairman. "You're actually fixing it?" He smirked. "I owed you something for patching me up. Figured this was a start." She folded her arms. "You think fixing an old freezer balances saving your life?" "No," he said simply. "But it's a down payment." Over the next few days, a strange rhythm took over Sam's life. Steve stayed mostly upstairs during the day, tinkering with broken diner equipment or reading old magazines Eli had left lying around. At night, he'd help her close the diner, silently stacking chairs, wiping tables, locking up while the rest of the staff had gone home. It was wordless teamwork, the kind that felt unspoken but understood. For the first time since she'd found him bleeding in the alley, the tension between them began to ease. One afternoon, Sam caught him sitting at the window, watching the street below. "You miss it, don't you?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "Miss what?" "Whatever life you had before all this." He gave a dry laugh. "I miss the noise. Not the people. The adrenaline. You stop hearing it and the silence gets loud." Sam studied him. "You don't strike me as a man who's afraid of quiet." Steve finally turned to her, his expression unreadable. "That's because I used to fill it with the wrong kind of noise." She didn't press him. Some wounds, she knew, weren't meant to be reopened. But peace in Graybridge never lasted long. On the fourth morning, Sam found something slipped under the diner's front door, a plain white envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper with typed words. "We know who you're hiding." Her throat went dry. She turned it over, but there was no sender, no signature. Just a faint watermark. The Callan Foundation. Sam locked the door, heart hammering, and rushed upstairs. Steve was there, tightening the bandage around his ribs. One look at her face and he knew. What happened? She handed him the note. He read it once, jaw tightening. Damn it. He paced the narrow floor. They're getting closer. Maybe it's just a scare tactic, Sam said, though her voice wavered. People gossip in this town. Maybe someone saw something. Steve shook his head. No. This is Vince's way of saying he's found the trail. He's testing you. Seeing if you'll run. She pressed a hand to her forehead. God, my son. I won't let anything happen to him, Steve said. She snapped her gaze toward him. Don't you get it? This isn't your decision to make. You brought this to my door. I didn't ask you to save me, he shot back. No, she said, her voice breaking, but I did. And now we're both stuck with it. Silence fell between them. Rain tapped the window, the only sound in the room. After a moment, Steve spoke quietly. You should know. I'm not innocent. Whatever you think I am, I'm worse. Sam didn't look up. I figured. I've done terrible things, he continued, his tone low and steady. Ordered hits. Took people apart who got in the way. You're risking your life for a man who should have died in that alley. Sam finally met his eyes. Then maybe saving my life was the start of making it right. He stared at her for a long moment, something shifting behind his guarded expression. Gratitude. Guilt. Maybe both. I don't deserve that, he said softly. She took a step closer, her voice calm but firm. You don't have to deserve it. You just have to do something with it. Upstairs, the sound of Eli's laughter drifted from the kitchen, light and unaware. The kind of sound that didn't belong in a world like theirs, but somehow made it bearable. Steve listened for a moment, then said quietly, He reminds me of someone I used to know. Your son? Sam asked. He hesitated, then shook his head. No. The kid I used to be. Before the blood, before the business. Before I decided money was worth more than mercy. Sam sighed, leaning against the counter. You can't go back, Steve. He gave a faint smile. Maybe not. But I can still choose what kind of man I want to die as. The words lingered between them, heavier than the storm clouds gathering outside. That night, after Eli was asleep, Sam walked into the storage room to check the locks. The freezer hummed again. Fixed, steady, alive. Steve sat nearby, staring at the envelope on the table. He looked up as she entered. You think they'll come soon? I think they already have, she said. The question is how long before they stop knocking. He nodded slowly. Then we better be ready. Sam took a deep breath, staring at the shadowed corners of the room that used to hold nothing but spare supplies. Now it held a secret, a man she should have feared but didn't, and a past she couldn't escape. Maybe saving him had been a mistake. Or maybe it was the only right thing she'd done in years. Either way, it was too late to turn back now. The next morning, Graybridge looked calm again, the kind of calm that lies. The sun rose soft and gold over the harbor, the streets glistening from last night's rain. Sam stood behind the counter of Luna's diner, forcing a smile at customers who didn't notice her shaking hands as she poured their coffee. She'd barely slept. Every creak in the walls, every flicker of headlights outside her window made her think of that envelope. We know who you're hiding. It sat now in her apron pocket, folded and sweat damp. The bell over the door jingled. She looked up and froze. Sheriff Tom Keller walked in. His uniform was crisp, and tilted just enough to seem friendly. His smile was polite, practiced. But his eyes, they didn't match the smile. Morning, Sam, he said. Heard there was a break-in near the pier last night. Just making rounds. Sam's throat went dry. Everything's fine here. Glad to hear it. He leaned a hand on the counter, scanning the diner with slow, casual interest. Busy morning? Same as always. Keller nodded, pretending to glance at the menu board, but his gaze flicked, just for a second, toward the back stairs. Sam caught it. Her stomach tightened. Tom, she said carefully. You checking on everyone or just me? He chuckled, the sound hollow. You've got a kid, Sam. I worry. Lots of trouble these days. People passing through town who don't belong. Right, she said. Wouldn't want that. He met her eyes then, and the small-town charm vanished. If you hear or see anything strange, you let me know. She nodded. Of course. Good, he said. Because Graybridge isn't what it used to be. When he left, the air seemed to lose oxygen. Sam watched his cruiser pull away, her heart pounding. Upstairs, Steve was waiting in the kitchen. Who was that? The sheriff, she said, hanging up her apron. Keller. Said he was checking on me. Steve frowned. Describe him. She did, the slick tone, the easy smile, the way his eyes had gone to the stairs. Steve's face darkened. I've seen him before. Not here, Chicago, maybe 4 years ago. He was security for one of Vince's fronts. Big deal, keeping the cops on payroll. Looks like your sheriff's not law. Sam blinked. You're saying he's working for Vince? Steve nodded grimly. He's insured. Paid to look the other way. The words made her chest go cold. Then he knows. Not yet, Steve said. But he suspects. And if he's sniffing around, it means Vince is getting impatient. That night, after Eli was asleep, Sam went to the counter to lock up. She paused. Something glinted under the counter lip. Tiny. Metallic. What's that? She murmured. Steve joined her, crouching down. He squinted, then cursed softly. A mic-hidden transmitter. They're listening. Sam felt her pulse spike. Here. In my diner. He pried it loose with a butter knife, turning it in his hand. Custom job. Not local police gear. Vince's men planted this. Probably during business hours. She gripped the counter to steady herself. They've been listening to us? Not anymore. He crushed the device under his boot heel, the crack of plastic loud in the quiet. The silence afterward felt heavier. Sam, he said quietly, I need you to think. Who's been in here lately that didn't belong? She shook her head. Everyone belongs here. It's a small town. Not anymore, Steve muttered. For the next few days, the walls closed in. She saw the same black SUV parked across from the diner. Every morning, different spot, same license plate. Men she didn't recognize lingered by the corner store, pretending to smoke, watching her windows. And then came the worst moment, the one that nearly broke her. It was Friday afternoon. Eli was biking home from school. The sky bruised with clouds. Sam was wiping tables when her phone rang, an unknown number. She answered, distracted. A man's voice, smooth and cold. Your boy's got good reflexes. Swerved just in time. Her body went numb. What? The line went dead. She dropped the phone and ran outside. Down the street she saw Eli, bike tipped over, a scrape on his knee, his backpack spilled. A delivery truck had blown past the stop sign, missing him by inches. She ran to him, scooping him into her arms, shaking. Oh my God, baby, are you okay? He nodded, crying. It came out of nowhere, Mom, I swear. She held him tighter. Steve was there minutes later, having seen from the window. He crouched beside them, voice low, controlled but trembling with rage. They sent a warning. Sam glared up at him, eyes burning. This is your war, not mine. They almost killed my son. I know. His jaw clenched. And that's why it ends now. Ends how? You're still recovering, you can't even. I don't care. He stood, every movement stiff with pain but fueled by something darker. You saved me, Sam. Now I save you. Steve. I mean it. He looked her dead in the eyes. No more running. No more hiding. You didn't drag me out of that alley so I could bleed your life dry. I'll finish this. Sam grabbed his arm, voice breaking. You'll die if you go after them. Then I'll die doing something that matters. The words hung between them like thunder. Later that night, after Eli was asleep, Sam sat at the kitchen table, head in her hands. Across from her, Steve mapped out something on a napkin. Routes, names, connections. Every movement is deliberate. You really think you can take Vince down? She asked softly. I don't have to take him down, he said. I just have to expose him. He's gotten sloppy. Too visible. If we can prove Keller's working with him, that's enough to start the fire. And what happens to us? Steve looked up. We survive. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the diner's old windows. In the streetlight glow, Sam saw the reflection of that same black SUV roll past again. Slow, deliberate, like a predator circling prey. Steve's eyes followed hers. He stood, walked to the window, and pulled the blind shut. You need to pack a bag, he said. Just in case. Where would we even go? Somewhere they won't follow. And if they do, I'll handle it. Sam swallowed hard, watching him. This man she should hate, planning her protection like it was his last mission. His hands were steady now, his expression clear. The look of someone who'd already accepted the cost. He turned to her. Sam, you trusted me when I didn't deserve it. Now it's my turn. And for the first time, she saw it. Not the crime boss, not the fugitive, but the soldier buried under all that sin. The one who'd lost his soul but was finally trying to earn it back. She nodded slowly. Then we do this together. Steve hesitated, then gave a small, tired smile. Together. Outside, lightning flashed over Graybridge, painting the sky white for a heartbeat. The storm wasn't coming. It was already here. The storm outside hadn't stopped for 2 days. It beat against the diner windows like it had a grudge, rattling the glass, hissing through the cracks. Inside, the air was thick, not with rain but silence. Heavy. Charged. Sam sat at the kitchen table, her hands curled around a chipped coffee mug gone cold. Steve stood near the counter, tracing the rim of his whiskey glass but not drinking it. Between them, a single low-hanging bulb cast thin, trembling light that seemed too fragile for what was coming. They hadn't spoken since last night's promise. Together. Now, together felt like a lie. Finally, Sam said, You said you wanted to tell me something. Steve didn't look up. Yeah. Then say it. He exhaled slowly, like a man bracing for his own confession. Your husband. Mark Luna. Her body stiffened. What about him? Steve's eyes lifted. Regret swam behind them, deep and ancient. His death. It wasn't an accident. The words hit like a blow to the chest. What? It wasn't some construction mishap, Sam. He got caught in something he didn't even know existed. Sam's voice cracked. Stop. He was delivering materials to a site Vince's people were using to move product. Guns, cash, sometimes bodies. Mark was just doing his job. But that day, a deal went sideways. Vince wanted the site burned. Cleaned. They didn't check who was inside. Sam stared at him unblinking. Her pulse pounded in her ears. You're lying. I wish I was. She stood so fast the chair scraped the floor. You, her throat locked up. You knew him. You knew. Steve's voice dropped, rough as gravel. I knew after. When I saw the reports. I tried to stop the cover-up, but Vince already paid off the inspectors, the cops, everyone. I couldn't undo it. Tears welled in her eyes. Hot and bitter. You let me believe it was an accident. He shook his head, desperate. I didn't let you. I didn't even know you existed until that night in the alley. Don't you dare, she hissed. Don't tell me this is fate, or coincidence, or redemption. You watched my life burn down from your leather chair while your men poured gasoline on it. Steve's jaw tightened, but he didn't defend himself. You think I don't hate myself for it? Every time I close my eyes I see the faces, the people Vince buried, the ones I couldn't save. Couldn't or wouldn't. That silenced him. The bulb flickered overhead, and for a moment the room went dark. When the light returned, Sam's face was wet with fury. You came here to die, she said coldly. And I should have let you. Steve looked away, his voice barely a whisper. Maybe you still can. She grabbed the nearest thing, a glass empty, and hurled it across the room. It shattered near the wall, shards spinning across the floor like sparks. Get out. Sam. I said get out. Her voice cracked on the last word. breaking something raw and final inside her. Steve's shoulders slumped. He nodded once, slow and hollow. "I'm sorry." He turned toward the door, grabbed his jacket from the chair. His bandages peeked out from under the sleeve, still damp with blood. He hesitated once more, like he wanted to say something, but couldn't find words worth speaking. When the door closed behind him, the sound echoed through the empty diner like a verdict. Sam stood still for a long time, chest heaving, hands shaking. Her mind raced, every memory of Mark, every smile, every promise, every night she'd cried thinking he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now she knows. He'd been murdered. Collateral damage in a war she never saw coming. She sank to her knees. The mug rolled off the table and shattered beside her. Her grief came out as a low, broken sound, not quite a scream, not quite a sob. Just the sound of a world collapsing. Through the tears, she whispered, "You should have walked away, Sam. You should have walked away that night." Upstairs, Eli shifted in his sleep, oblivious to the storm tearing through his mother's chest. Outside, thunder rumbled again. Deeper, closer. Then came the noise. A car engine. Slow. Idling. Sam's head snapped toward the window. Headlights glowed faintly through the rain. 2 white circles burning through the mist. Her stomach dropped. No one came out. No door opened. Just the engine's steady hum. Then another pair of headlights turned the corner, joining the first. And another. Her blood turned to ice. She ran to the stairwell, calling up, "Eli! Wake up, baby, now!" He appeared at the top of the stairs, bleary-eyed, clutching his blanket. "Mom! Get your shoes. We have to go." "What's happening?" "Just do it." The front door rattled. Once. Twice. Then a knock. 3 hard, deliberate thuds. Sam's heart slammed against her ribs. She snatched the revolver from the kitchen drawer, checking the chamber. Her reflection stared back from the dark window. Hair wild, eyes fierce, a woman on the edge of something irreversible. She pressed Eli's backpack into his hands. "Out the back. Go to Mrs. Hargrove's house. Don't stop no matter what. But go." The boy hesitated, then bolted down the back stairs, small footsteps echoing away. Sam took position behind the counter, gun trembling slightly in her hand. The front door creaked open. Rain spilled first, followed by boots. Shadows moved in the doorway. 2 men, maybe 3. Flashlights cut through the dark, sweeping the room. "Lights are off," one muttered. "Are you sure she's here?" "She's here," another replied. "Boss said she'd be. And if O'Connell's still breathing, he won't let her out of his sight." Her breath caught. A shadow stepped further in, tall, armed, slow. The beam of his flashlight landed on the broken glass near the wall. Sam gritted her teeth. She could almost hear Mark's voice. Calm, teasing. "Breathe before you shoot, Sammy. Don't pull the trigger. Squeeze it." She exhaled. A hand reached the counter edge. She squeezed. The gun roared. The man dropped. Chaos erupted. Bullets shredded the air. Sam dove behind the counter, shards flying. She fired again, missed. A bullet tore through the register, sending coins spilling like rain. Then a new voice. Rough. Familiar. "Down." Steve burst through the side door, blood on his sleeve, eyes burning. He fired twice, fast and precise. 2 men fell. The last one fled into the storm. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Sam looked up from behind the counter, gasping. "You came back." Steve's chest heaved, his gun still raised. "Told you." Together. But his expression darkened. "They're not done, Sam. This was just the opening move." Outside, more headlights flared, 3 cars now, cutting through the storm. Sam grabbed her son's backpack from the floor, slinging it over her shoulder. "Then let's finish it." Steve glanced toward the door, jaw set. "No," he said quietly. "I'll finish it." And as lightning flashed across the windows, the 2 of them stood side by side, a nurse with a gun, a dying man with too many sins, waiting for the storm to break again. Flames ate through the night like starving wolves. The diner, Her diner was on fire. Smoke poured from the windows, curling into the rain like dark ghosts. The sign that once read Luna's Diner flickered, sparked, and fell with a hiss. Sam stumbled through the haze, coughing, her hand gripping Steve's arm as she dragged him toward the back exit. "Keep moving," she shouted. Steve's breathing was ragged, blood blooming through the bandage on his side. The bullet from the earlier fight had reopened the wound. He tried to push her away. "Go. You can't. Save it," she snapped. "You're not dying on me again." The ceiling groaned overhead. Flames licked the counters, catching the old photos she'd framed years ago. Her husband, Eli as a baby, on the diner's opening day. Her whole life, burning to ash. Steve stumbled, collapsing against a booth. Sam hooked her arms under his shoulders and dragged him another few feet, boots slipping on the wet tile. The heat scorched her skin, sweat and rain mixing into grime. They burst through the back door just as the kitchen roof caved in. The explosion threw them both into the alley, the same narrow stretch of asphalt where it had all begun. Rain hissed as it hit fire. Sparks sprayed into the darkness. Steve groaned, clutching his side. "You should have left me." Sam turned, face streaked with soot, eyes blazing. "And let you ruin another life? Not a chance." Before he could answer, headlights sliced through the smoke. Black SUVs skidded into the alley, doors slamming open. Vince Callen's men. Armed. "Move!" Sam yelled, dragging Steve behind a dumpster. Bullets ripped through the wet brick, the sound echoing like thunder. Steve tried to raise his gun but dropped it, his strength fading. "There's too many." "Shut up." Sam yanked open her tote bag, pulling out what was left of her trauma kit. "Hold pressure here." He gave a weak laugh through the pain. "You're insane." "Yeah, well, it's contagious." She tore open gauze with her teeth, pressing it to his wound as bullets ricocheted off metal. "Stay still." "I said still." "Sam. Don't talk. You're wasting breath." Rain hammered down harder now, steam rising from the fire behind them. The world was chaos, orange and red flashing against black water. From the SUV a familiar voice boomed. "O'Connell." Steve froze. "Vince." He leaned his head back against the wall, jaw tightening. "He's here." Sam peeked around the dumpster. Vince Callen stepped out, black coat glistening, pistol gleaming in his hand. His men fanned out behind him, a dozen shadows in the rain. "Looks like you found yourself a nurse," Vince called, smirking. "Touching." Sam's pulse roared in her ears. She felt for Steve's weapon on the ground and lifted it. Her hand shook, but she aimed steady. "Walk away," she shouted, "or you'll leave here in a body bag." Vince laughed. "Sweetheart, you're standing in one." He raised his gun, but Steve's shot rang first. Vince's shoulder jerked back, blood spraying. The mobsters opened fire. Sam pulled Steve down, bullets shredding the dumpster. She fired back blind, praying. Steve gritted his teeth, pain etched across his face. "Give me the gun." "You're hit." "Give it to me." She tossed it to him. He rolled to the side, braced himself, and fired in controlled bursts. Precise, ruthless, trained. Two men dropped instantly. Sam ducked as a bullet grazed her arm. The sting was sharp, hot. "Damn it. Stay down." Steve barked. "Not a chance." She crawled toward a fallen thug, grabbed his weapon, and aimed at another shadow moving along the fence. 3 shots. He fell. But there were too many. The alley burned behind them, smoke swirling around the rain, turning the night into hell's reflection. "End of the line, O'Connell." Vince shouted, blood running down his arm but still grinning. "You always thought you could clean up your mess. Now it's gonna bury you." Steve coughed, blood on his lips. "Maybe. But I'm not dying alone." He raised his gun again, then dropped it, his strength gone. Sam saw the wound reopening, blood spilling faster. She pressed her hands to it, shouting, "Don't you dare quit on me." He tried to laugh. "Deja vu. Shut up. You're not dying here again." She screamed, voice breaking. The sirens were faint in the distance. Someone must have called in the fire. but they'd never make it in time. Sam looked around, found a flare gun hanging by the emergency exit. She grabbed it, flicked the safety. "What are you doing?" Steve rasped. "Ending this." She aimed at the SUV's fuel tank and fired. The flare hit, hissing bright red, then boom. The blast threw them backward. Fire tore through the alley, engulfing the vehicles, sending Vince's men scattering. When the smoke cleared, Vince lay on the ground, barely conscious. He looked up at her, laughing through the blood. "Do you think this changes anything? There's always another me." Sam stood over him, gun steady. "Not in my town." Before she could pull the trigger, Steve's hand closed weakly over hers. "Don't. You're not like us." Her eyes met his. Rain streamed down both their faces, washing away the soot, the blood, the fury. Slowly, she lowered the gun. Vince coughed, half smiling. "Big mistake." Then came the wail of sirens, closer this time, echoing off the narrow walls. Blue and red lights painted the smoke. Steve sagged against her shoulder. "Told you, we'd finish it." "You're losing too much blood," she said, pressing harder against his side. "Stay with me." He tried to speak but couldn't. His head fell forward, breath shallow. "Steve." She slapped his face lightly. "Come on. Stay awake." His eyes fluttered. "You talk too much." She almost laughed, a broken sound halfway between relief and despair. Paramedics flooded the alley moments later, shouting orders. Police swarmed Vince and his men, dragging them away in cuffs. Sam held onto Steve's hand as they loaded him onto a stretcher. "Don't you leave me halfway," she whispered. "You don't get to die twice." He looked up at her, weak but smiling. "I wouldn't dream of it." As they carried him toward the ambulance, the fire behind them roared one last time, the diner collapsing in on itself. Sam turned to watch, the glow reflecting in her eyes. Her home, her memories, everything is gone. But this time she didn't feel powerless. She'd fought back. She'd survived. And she'd made sure Mark's death, and every lie that followed, wouldn't be buried in the dark anymore. The rain kept falling, putting out the last of the flames. Steam rose where water met fire. Somewhere under it all, Sam Luna stood tall in the wreckage. Bruised, bleeding, but unbroken. Dawn crept slowly over Graybridge, soft light spilling across the soaked ruins of Luna's diner. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of smoke and gasoline, the aftermath of violence lingering like a scar that wouldn't fade. Sam stood in the alley, blanket draped over her shoulders, hair damp, face streaked with ash. Around her, paramedics packed up, police combed the wreckage, and the sound of radios buzzed through the dawn haze. Steve lay on a stretcher beside her, his breathing steady but shallow. His bandaged side was crimson again, but he was alive. Barely. A uniformed officer approached, her tone clipped. "Miss Luna? They'll take him to Graybridge General. You should come with." "No," Sam said softly, eyes fixed on Steve. "He'll do what he always does. Wake up halfway there, pull out his .4 and disappear." The officer frowned, confused. "He's under arrest, ma'am." Sam almost smiled, the kind that wasn't happiness, just exhaustion. Then maybe this time he won't run. The sound of boots crunching gravel made her turn. Sheriff Keller stood 10 feet away, wrists cuffed, head down. The same calm smile was gone, replaced by the face of a man cornered and exposed. 2 state officers shoved him toward a squad car. One muttered, found a burner phone in his cruiser, calls straight to Vince Callen's number. Keller looked at Sam as they passed. "You think this fixes it? You think you're safe now?" She met his gaze coldly. "No. But you're not either." The door slammed. The car drove off. Across the alley, Vince Callen was being loaded into another cruiser, arm in a sling, face pale but still sneering. "You don't get it, Sam," he called out, voice hoarse. "You just traded one monster for another. He'll never stop being what he is." Steve's voice rasped from the stretcher. "Maybe. But neither will you." Vince's smirk faltered as the door shut behind him. For the first time since she met him, Sam saw Steve O'Connell at peace. He turned his head toward her, a faint smile playing at the edge of his lips. "It's over." She shook her head. "Not yet." 3 days later, the courthouse in downtown Graybridge was packed. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras flashing as they shouted questions. Is it true O'Connell turned himself in? Did he name names? Is the Luna case connected? Sam didn't answer any of them. She walked in quietly, her son Eli holding her hand. Inside, the courtroom buzzed. Steve sat at the defendant's table, pale but alert in a gray suit that didn't fit right. His wounds were still fresh. One hand was bandaged, the other resting on a stack of papers, his written confession. When the judge entered, the noise still. "Stephen O'Connell," the judge began, "you are charged with multiple counts of racketeering, conspiracy, and obstruction. You've chosen to represent yourself for this statement." Steve nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." "Proceed." He stood slowly. The courtroom went silent. "My name," he began, voice low but steady, "is Steve O'Connell. For 20 years, I ran a business that called itself many things: logistics, security, finance, but it was always one thing: organized crime." He glanced around the room, his gaze landing briefly on Sam. "I built an empire on fear. I paid off cops, judges, and politicians, including Sheriff Tom Keller. I moved guns and drugs through this town while people like Sam Luna worked double shifts just to feed their kids. I destroyed lives, and I called it business." He paused. His voice wavered, but he didn't stop. 3 years ago, a man named Mark Luna died in what was called a construction accident. It wasn't. My men were cleaning up a smuggling site after a deal Vince Callan botched. I didn't give the order, but I didn't stop it. That's on me. The air left the room. Sam's throat tightened, eyes burning. Steve continued, softer now. "I found out too late who he was. A father, a husband, a man who wasn't supposed to be part of my world. When I saw his name in the file, something in me cracked. And when his wife pulled me out of that alley months ago, I realized I'd been running from the same ghosts I created." He set his papers down. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want the truth on record, so his son can grow up knowing his father wasn't careless. He was murdered." The judge nodded slowly. "Is that all, Mr. O'Connell?" Steve looked at Sam again. "Almost." He turned toward the gallery, toward the cameras, toward the people watching from the back. "There are more names. Men still working under Vince's network, men sitting in uniform, behind desks in boardrooms. You'll find them in the files I turned over to the state attorney this morning. Graybridge isn't clean yet. But it can be." He sat back down. The judge exhaled. "We'll take a recess before sentencing." The gavel struck once. As people began to stir, Sam stayed seated. Her hands trembled in her lap, but her heart felt, for the first time in years, still. When the guards moved to escort Steve away, he looked over his shoulder. Their eyes met. She wanted to say something, thank you maybe, or don't go, but no words came. Instead, as he passed her, he slipped something small into her palm. A folded piece of paper. He didn't look back. The doors closed behind him. Sam sat for a long moment before she unfolded the note. The handwriting was messy, but steady. "You taught me what mercy feels like. S.O." Her vision blurred. She pressed the note to her chest, breathing in deep. Eli tugged her sleeve. "Mom, are we okay now?" She looked down at him, at the same eyes Mark once had, and nodded through the tears. "Yeah, baby. We're okay." Outside, the reporters were still shouting questions. The sky over Graybridge pale and clean for the first time in days. Sam stepped out into the sunlight, the folded note still in her hand. Behind her, the courthouse doors shut, sealing away one story and opening another. She didn't know what would happen to Steve. Prison, witness protection, maybe worse. But she knew this. The man she'd found bleeding in the rain had done something no one else had managed. He'd given her back the truth. And in a world full of lies, that was enough. That night, Sam sat at her kitchen table. What was left of her apartment, now half-boxed and half-rebuilt. She unfolded the note again, smoothing it flat beside a photo of Mark and Eli. "You taught me what mercy feels like." She smiled faintly. "You have no idea, Steve." From outside, the distant hum of cars faded into quiet. For the first time since the storm began, Graybridge slept. And so did Sam Luna. 6 months later, Graybridge smelled like spring again. The salt from the harbor carried on the breeze, the streets glistened after fresh rain, and the sound of laughter drifted from the newly rebuilt diner at the corner of Harbor and Main. The sign above the door read, "Luna's Mercy." Sam still remembered the day the new lettering went up, painted in white against deep blue, simple and steady. She'd stood across the street holding Eli's hand, tears catching in the sunlight. Not tears of grief this time, but something gentler. Closure, maybe. Hope. Now, on a quiet Saturday morning, the diner hummed with life. Locals filled the booths, fishermen, teachers, mothers with strollers, all talking over the smell of coffee and fresh bread. The place was different now, not just rebuilt, but renewed. There was a bulletin board near the door that read in bold letters, "First Aid Class, every Wednesday night instructor, Samantha Luna." Sam stood at the counter, tying her apron, smiling as Eli handed out menus. "Table 3 needs refills," he said with mock seriousness. "Yes, sir," she teased, saluting him. He grinned, all dimples and mischief, and darted back toward the register. He was taller now, more confident. His eyes bright in a way she hadn't seen since Mark's death. When the breakfast rush slowed, Sam slipped into the small community room they'd built in the back of the diner, the one she'd turned into a first aid classroom. Rows of folding chairs faced a whiteboard, and a CPR dummy sat waiting on the table. She pinned up a hand-painted sign above the board, "So no one ever dies waiting for help." That had become her motto, and the town's too. Every week, people came, teens, truckers, grandmothers, to learn how to stop bleeding, how to keep someone breathing, how to stay calm when the worst happened. The first class was small, 5 people. Now, 20 signed up regularly. When she started, she'd felt awkward, unsure. Now, her voice carried steady confidence. "Pressure on the wound," she'd say, demonstrating on the dummy. "Don't wait for someone else to do it. You can save a life before help arrives." Sometimes, she caught herself hearing echoes of Steve's voice when she said those words. "You didn't let me die in that alley. Don't ever lose that instinct." She never told anyone his story. In Graybridge, his name was a ghost, whispered only in courthouse records and old headlines. To the rest of the world, Steve O'Connell had disappeared again. But she knew he was out there. Somewhere. After the day's lessons ended, Sam walked out back to the small garden behind the diner. The rebuilding crews had helped her plant it. Herbs, wildflowers, a lemon tree that was already trying to bloom. Eli knelt by the fence, tending to the soil with careful hands. "Dad would have liked this," he said quietly. Sam smiled, kneeling beside him. "Yeah, he would have." He looked at her, curious. "Do you think that man Steve is okay?" She hesitated. "I think he's where he needs to be." Eli nodded, accepting that as truth. He'd never asked too much. Some answers were meant to stay half-whispered. That evening, after the last customer left and the neon lights outside buzzed softly in the drizzle, Sam locked up and went upstairs. The diner below was dark and calm, filled with the hum of cooling machines and the faint scent of lemon cleaner. She made tea, the kind she always brewed when she couldn't sleep, honey and ginger. Then she sat by the window, watching rain streak the glass. For the first time in years, she wasn't waiting for something bad to happen. Just before midnight there was a sound at the door. Not a knock, just the soft slide of paper under the threshold. Her pulse quickened. She rose slowly, crossing the floor. An envelope lay on the doormat, cream-colored, sealed with a wax insignia. An ornate O pressed into the red wax. Sam knelt and picked it up. Her hand shook, just slightly as she broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a bundle of bills. Thick, crisp, more money than she'd seen in a long time. Enough to fund her clinic for months. The note was short. Only 7 words, written in the same rough, slanted handwriting she'd once found on a folded scrap of paper in the courthouse. "Keep teaching them." Mercy is legacy. S. Sam's breath caught. For a moment, all the noise of the rain and the city and the years between fell away. She pressed the note against her chest, smiling faintly. "You kept your word," she whispered. Outside, the storm finally cleared. She stepped onto the balcony, watching the sky break open into stars. The town glowed below, the diner sign reflecting off wet pavement, the faint hum of laughter still drifting from down the block. Steve O'Connell was a ghost now. But his ghost wasn't haunting her anymore. It was guarding her. Downstairs, the Luna's mercy sign flickered once, then steadied, its glow soft and golden against the night. Sam turned back toward her son's room, checked in on him one last time. Eli was asleep, clutching a small flashlight under his pillow. She whispered, "We're safe now, baby." Then she sat at her desk, unfolded Steve's letter again, and slipped it into a small box, beside Mark's wedding ring, the photo of her first diner shift, and the bracelet she'd worn the night she found Steve bleeding in the rain. Pieces of her story. Pieces of survival. She closed the box gently. Tomorrow, there will be another class to teach. Another person to remind that heroes don't always wear badges or carry guns. Sometimes, they just refuse to walk away. And in Graybridge, people had learned that lesson well. As the first light of morning crept through her window, Sam Luna smiled through tired eyes and whispered to the dawn, "Mercy wins."